for agreeing to be interviewed today.
No
And
problem.
before we begin, I just want to say that the questions that I'll be asking about sex education, sexuality, and gender identity are rather personal in nature, so if at any point in time you're uncomfortable with the question, please refrain from answering.
Okay.
How do you identify in terms of sexuality and gender?
Okay, well, I identify as a female when it comes to gender, and I always have. And when it comes to sexuality, for the time being, I identify as straight, but I haven't always. It's kind of an ongoing process, so we'll see how I end up.
Have you ever felt excluded based on your gender and or sexuality, and if so, how?
My gender, definitely. I mean, because I am a female, and females are, we still have women's suffrage going on and everything like that. Like, women still only make 77 cents of the dollar, and so it's just in general. I mean, because I work at GameStop and everything, like, I was the only female working there for 5 months or so until we finally got another female there. So it's a very interesting area. Like, there's a lot of areas where I shouldn't be for a female. Like, when I'm playing any video games online, like, I can't identify as a female, or else I'll instantly get attacked.
Yeah, harassed.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a male-dominated field.
Exactly. So I guess, like, that's a really good example of it.
Have you ever felt pressure to conform to gender stereotypes and or expectations, and if so, which ones?
Yeah, I have. With cutting my hair, when I was telling people that I was going to cut my hair, a lot of people were excited for me, but some people, when their reactions weren't uplifting, they were like, oh, but you look so much better with longer hair, and like, no, you shouldn't have cut it because girls are supposed to have long hair. It was really frustrating.
When did you first learn about sex or receive sex education?
I got a book from my parents when I was little, when I started asking questions, and my mom was like, here, read this book. And so we read it together, and then 6th grade I got, it was us, like, girls on one side, boys on the other side, and girls were talked about their periods and everything like that would be happening, and then guys would be talked about, whatever, I don't know, because I wasn't there. And then in high school, my sophomore year of high school, I took sex ed.
Alright, so you covered my question about what schools taught you, what role, and also what role your parents played. So, is there anything else you would want to add to what schools or your parents taught you?
Not really, no.
Okay. Moving along then, what's your opinion about what is being taught, or what was being taught in sex education?
Looking back, especially with high school, I know that California requires it to be medically accurate when teaching sex ed, and that's what they were doing. However, it seemed that they were putting more of an emphasis on abstinence-only sex ed, even though they were teaching about, like, condoms and everything like that and birth control. They still, they focused a lot more on the bad things that would happen if you had sex, like STIs and everything like that.
Do you feel that anything is missing from sex education?
I think that as a nation, we really need to focus on moving away from abstinence-only sex ed, because it doesn't work. Like, it's been statistically proven that it doesn't work. I know that out of like 20 states that require sex ed, I think it's only 7 states required to be medically accurate, and so 13 of those states don't require it to be medically accurate. And so because of that, you could go up and say, if you have sex, you're going to go to hell because Jesus hates sex. And they're allowed, or they can say that because they don't have to be medically accurate. So that's something that definitely needs to change, just moving away from the abstinence-only sex ed.
How do you feel about gender identity and sexuality as being taught in schools?
I think it's definitely something that we should address. It'll help to show how the times are now, because back in the day, when I say in the day, I mean, like, this could even mean like 10 years ago or whatever, but it was still, if you came out gay, like, if you weren't 100% accepted as who you are. I'm not saying that it's how it is now, but I mean, for example, the song by Macklemore, Same Love, which is about same-sex marriage, it's playing on the radio and everything, and it got an award for being such an amazing song. That would have never happened, and so that just shows how the times are changing. And so we really need to follow suit through education by including gender identity and sexual orientation within sex ed.
What would you like to see schools incorporate into sex education aside from moving away from abstinence-only programs?
I guess focusing more on making sex a positive thing. I mean, I know that you don't want to be like, yeah, go out and have sex, but not making it such a negative thing, because it's not viewed the same way that it is today as it was 50 years ago, but we're still teaching sex ed as how it was viewed 50 years ago. So like just teaching it as more of a positive thing.
All right. Thank you for your time.
No problem.